Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the CD guy, Johnny Z here. Thank you so much for tuning back into the channel. I'm going to be continuing here today my 2023 in review series, counting down my top 15 favorite metal albums of 2023. Let's get things started here at number 15 with maybe a pick that you weren't expecting, a band that not too many people have heard of. A new band made their debut record this year. I'm going to go with High Priest and their new album, Invocation. It's my favorite debut album of 2023, and I'm going to be doing a whole countdown on some of the best debuts of this year, but from Chicago, High Priest brings some heavy, sometimes doomy riffage here and some great melodies to their debut record. In terms of their sound quality, it can definitely be improved upon, but, there's a lot of room for growth there, right? This is their debut record, but for a debut, it definitely caught my attention, with tracks like Conjure, the title track Invocation, Ceremony, and Universe. Definitely worth checking out. Highly recommend High Priest and their debut record here from 2023, Invocation. Great stuff. Wanted to put it on my list here today, but I'll talk more about it when I count down my favorite debuts of the year a little bit later on in the month. For number 14, let's go with Tomorrow Never Comes by Rancid. Hardcore punk legends here returning to the studio with what I think is their best record in years, and an album that they absolutely needed to make, with shades of classic punk here and that approach that really, packs a punch with every song. Short but hard-hitting songs, clocking in at, I believe, just a little under 30 minutes here, so just under half an hour, with some standouts that include Tomorrow Never Comes, New American, It's a Road to Righteousness, Live Forever, Prisoner's Song, Eddie and the Butcher is fantastic, Hear Us Out, and then When the Smoke Clears to close things out. Great record here, definitely shades of classic Rancid in my opinion, and like I said, their best album in years, coming in at number 14 on the list. Following that up now with my number 13, we have Stone by Baroness. Baroness are a great band who continue to evolve in the studio, further expanding their range with Stone, and it really does seem like Baroness are a group that never make the same record, and this is one of their most experimental yet, as far as I'm concerned. It's proggy with an edge too, and some standouts here include Magnolia, Shine, Under the Wheel, Bloom, and The Last Word. So again, always with Baroness reinventing themselves in some sorts, bringing something different to the table, never really repeating themselves, and you're continuing to be a very unique and experimental band here with Stone. Love the experimentation on this record here, and it just adds to their already great catalog, so I definitely wanted to include it here on the list. I think 13 is a good spot to put it. Gonna go with Stone by Baroness. Great proggy record here, and again, more of that fantastic range that I love from a band like Baroness. At number 12, Congregation of Annihilation by Metal Church. This is the first Metal Church album with new vocalist Mark Lopez, and it's a new era for the band. However, this material here proves it's still the same old Metal Church, that we all know and love, which is great. This album is super heavy with some superb guitar work, and I also love the vocals on here by new vocalist Mark Lopez, who proves that he's worthy of filling the shoes of the late, great Mike Howe. Some awesome standouts here that include Another Judgment Day, Congregation of Annihilation, Pick a God and Pray, hands down the best song on this record here. Just awesome stuff. I remember when that track was released, I was blown away. I definitely had to buy this record after I heard that song. You have Making Monsters, let's see, These Violent Thrills, and All That We Destroy. So a lot of really great songs on here, in my opinion. Metal Church finding a new lease on life after the passing of Mike Howe, with new vocalist Mark Lopez, and really great job here with their first album with Lopez, with Congregation of Annihilation, my number 12 on the list. Next, at number 11, let's go with Catatonia and Sky Void of Stars. At the beginning of the year, this is one of my most anticipated albums of 2023, and it definitely delivered as far as I'm concerned. So many different influences and elements on display here on this album. Catatonia are definitely unpredictable in the sense that, they're pretty eclectic with their style, and especially on this record with the approach that they took, with a great atmosphere created by the band as well here on this album. Some highlights for me include No Beacon to Illuminate Our Fall, Atrium, Drab Moon, and Author. Some really great tracks on here, in my opinion, some of their best studio offerings to date, and when it comes down to it, I love the unpredictableness of this album. It only adds to that kind of eccentric feel that Catatonia bring to the table, on top of their great range as well. Florida death metal legends Obituary got us started here in the top 10 with The Dying of Everything. What a great album here. They come striking back in the studio with, in my opinion, their best album in years. It's definitely, shades of old school Obituary here, which I thought was awesome, with some tracks like Barely Alive, really explosive opener, The Wrong Time, Without a Conscience, War is great with a really infectious chorus. Dying of Everything, the title track, is great. By the Dawn, Weaponize the Hate, Torn Apart. Great stuff. I think John Tardy's vocals on here sound as good as ever, so the band continuing to fire on all cylinders now, even, all these years into their career, with a great album, one that was better than I expected, and, still to this day I put on, maybe I listen to about once a week. It's an album that I really enjoy, and it's hands down one of my favorite death metal releases of 2023, so wanted to put it in the top 10 here. I think it's fair that it gets a start started here at number 10, The Dying of Everything by Obituary. Just awesome stuff. Let's switch gears now and go to power metal with Powerwolf and Interludium. It's pretty much what I expected from them. You know, nothing too out of the ordinary for Powerwolf, but it has some awesome hooks and some very powerful choruses as well. Definitely an important album for them as they continue to grow in popularity and recognition. Powerwolf, a great power metal act, adding to their discography here with Interludium. Really dig it. Another one of my most anticipated albums of the year when, you know, it was January and I was counting down some albums I was looking forward to in this, you know, coming year. So very happy with Interludium by Powerwolf. Again, nothing too different or out of the ordinary, but just about what I expected, and considering that Powerwolf are continuing to grow and continuing to rise in popularity, I, you know, was very pleased with this album here, and I was expecting good things from them, and I think this is a really solid album. Is it their best? Maybe not, but still a great studio effort here, in my opinion, by Powerwolf, one of my favorite power metal albums of the year, and I am planning on doing a power metal countdown later on, probably in December for 2023 as well, so you definitely want to stay tuned for that. I'll definitely be talking more about Interludium on that list as well. At number 8, I'm going to go with the other one, by BABYMETAL. You know, BABYMETAL are probably one of the most disrespected and or misunderstood metal bands out there. You know, a lot of people who write them off as, you know, being far too gimmicky. I think they proved something with this record here, that they're more than just a gimmick that some people may perceive them to be. This record shows their range and definitely maturity, I think, in their songwriting and vocals by Su Metal and Moa Metal. Up to this point, it's definitely their most mature record to date, and, you know, a great addition to their catalog that I enjoy quite a bit. I reviewed it when it came out, and it's an album that, you know, some metal fans, again, will write off, but, you know, definitely worth a listen if you have not checked out the new BABYMETAL release. You know, when it comes to some of the best work that they've done so far, this is right up there at the top as far as I'm concerned, and just shows the growth that they've made in terms of their songwriting up to this point. So I really dig it. I think it's got a great kind of a vibe and otherworldly atmosphere as well, so that's really cool. The concept is neat, and the musicianship here, I think, is, you know, top-notch as far as I'm concerned. So BABYMETAL really did show us something, I think, this year with the other one. Their best, you know, album in terms of maturity to date. So coming in at number 8 here, gotta put it on the list in the top 10, gotta go with the other one. Number 7, Foregone by In Flames. You know, this is definitely the best In Flames album in a very long time. You know, I had kind of written off In Flames, really had to listen to a lot of their new stuff in a while, and then I remember upon its release, this was a record that everyone was talking about. Everyone was talking about, you know, Foregone. Gotta listen to Foregone. Great album here. Album of the year contender. And so I said, okay, I'll check it out, you know, because like I said, I checked out of In Flames for a while, and I was blown away by this album. It was far better than I expected. A great reinvention of their sound, and I do love the work here of Chris Broderick on guitar, making his first appearance on an In Flames record, and tracks like State of Flow Decay, Meet Your Maker, and The Great Deceiver are all candidates for some of my favorite metal songs of 2023. So a really powerful record here, super heavy stuff by In Flames, a definite statement album, and one that they needed to make to kind of mark a bit of a resurgence here. So an album that caught my attention and, you know, brought me back after really not following In Flames for many years. So I could say definitely belongs in the top 10. Really killer record here by In Flames, one that, you know, is so fantastic and probably the best thing they've done in a very long time. Let's talk King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. For number 6, I'm going to go with PetroDragonic Apocalypse. You know, such a vast range and styles, you know, by this band. King Gizzard can make a proggy record or a thrashy record or a psychedelic rock album, and, you know, they can do it all in a short period of time, which is remarkable. You know, this record is really thrashy with a bit of a progressive metal edge to it as well. All recorded based on jam sessions, which is pretty cool to think about. You know, just the ear this band has for, you know, great music and what works for them to be combing through, you know, jam sessions, and this is what they come up with, which I thought that was really interesting. And, you know, when I read that, I was very surprised because this album is very complete. It sounds very, you know, it sounds very cohesive as well. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Some standouts for me include Motor Spirit, Witchcraft, Dragon, and Flamethrower, a band with superb musicianship and great instrumentation that continue to, you know, release multiple albums a year and, you know, continue to achieve critical acclaim as well, because they're doing a fantastic job here of doing something so different and, you know, being one of the most unique acts, I think, in rock and metal today. So with that said, my number 6 here on the list, gotta go to PetroDragonic Apocalypse by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Talk about an album that blew my expectations out of the water here. Coming in at number 5, we get started in the top 5 with Overkill and Scorched. Thrash metal legends here, still showing they have a lot left to offer in the studio. Some great tracks on here that really blew me away. The title track is awesome. The Surgeon, probably my favorite metal song of 2023. Wicked Place, let's see, Twist of the Wick, Sever. Don't Be Coming Back is great. Harder They Fall, Know the Name. Just so many awesome songs on here, in my opinion. Really heavy, a thrashy record here. This sounds like classic old school Overkill, and I was really surprised. Not that Overkill had been, releasing lackluster albums or anything like that, but this is just a step above that, in my opinion here. It really does take the listener back to the prime era of Overkill here, when they were, right there in the middle of, a lot of those great thrash metal bands who were first bursting onto the scene. So, although they've remained largely underrated throughout their careers here, this is definitely an album that deserves to be in the top 5. One of my favorite metal releases of all of 2023, and an album I'll talk more about when I count down my favorite thrash releases of the year as well. Great stuff here by Overkill. Scorched is fantastic from top to bottom here. Not a bad song on this record, in my opinion. All killer, no filler, and like I said, it's their best album in years. Number 4, we have The Sinner Rides Again by KK's Priest, of course, the project of KK Downing, formerly of Judas Priest. And the guitar work is going to be fantastic on this record because KK is one of the all-time best metal guitarists. But what I enjoyed about this record here, and it's the follow-up, of course, to Sermons of the Sinner from 2021, was the growth of the band, between that debut record and now. Definitely much more mature and comfortable in their songwriting on this record, so I enjoyed that growth. And I think that they're only going to get more comfortable in the studio together with time, seeing that there's probably going to be a third, maybe even a fourth studio album, since Priest just won't let KK back in the band, which is a shame. But KK's Priest is fantastic in my opinion. You got Ripper Owens on lead vocals, also formerly of Judas Priest here, doing a fantastic job, belting it out like only he can. So really great stuff here in my opinion. Another album that really did exceed my expectations. I wasn't sure if it was going to be better than their debut, but lo and behold, I think it showed great strides forward by the band, and I thoroughly enjoy every track on this record. So with that in mind, coming in at number 4, going to go with The Sinner Rides Again by KK's Priest. For the top 3, let's break into some death metal here with Chaos Horrific. What a fantastic record by Cannibal Corpse. Of course, Cannibal Corpse, one of the biggest and most important names in all of death metal, so anytime they release a new studio album, it's a big deal, and they definitely lived up to the hype with this record here, in my opinion. Raging vocals by Corpse Grinder Fisher, got some amazing guitar work as well, and let's also talk about Paul Mazurkiewicz on the drums, one of the most underrated drummers of all time, in my opinion, with a fantastic performance here on this record. Cannibal Corpse are one of those bands that are still putting out great music now, decades into their career, and I really enjoy tracks on here like Overlords of Violence, Frenzied Feeding, Summon for Sacrifice, Blood Blind is great, Chaos Horrific, the title track, is awesome. Drain You Empty is super heavy and aggressive. Just some of the awesome elements of Cannibal Corpse that we all love on display here for this record that I thought really did make it, one of the best death metal releases of the year. I'll be doing a death metal countdown later on in December, so definitely stay tuned for that. I'll be talking more about Cannibal Corpse and some other great death metal releases, but when it comes down to it, Cannibal Corpse, death metal juggernauts, releasing another great death metal classic here with Chaos Horrific, my number 3 on the list, getting us started in the top 3. We're going to stick with death metal here for my number 2 with Cattle Decapitation and Terrasite. Simply put, Cattle Decap outdid themselves this year with, in my opinion, the best death metal release of 2023. Every track on here is a banger, in my opinion. The guitar work is great. You have soaring choruses and vocals here, great melodies as well. Really infectious stuff, in my opinion, that just puts this album over the top for me. Some standouts include We Eat Our Young. Scourge of the Offspring is just such a great song, so heavy. One of the best Cattle Decapitation songs in a long time. Let's see here. And The World Will Go On Without You, The Storm Upstairs, The Insignificance is great, Dead End Residence, and Just Another Body to close things out. Really heavy stuff here by Cattle Decap. Love the vocals, love the guitar work, love the drumming as well. I think it's one of those, records that what really defines 2023 in terms of death metal and what came out this year. This has to be at the top of that list. Awesome stuff here by Cattle Decapitation with what I think is their best record in a very long time. Great stuff here with this fantastic record, Terrasite, which I definitely had to include in the top 3. Coming in at number 2 here, let's go with Terrasite by Cattle Decapitation. Now, my number 1, I know people are going to disagree with this because, there are just some people who love to hate this band, but for me personally, they're my second favorite band of all time, and so, whenever they're up for any kind of these lists and they meet the criteria, chances are they're going to be pretty high up. So in my opinion, my favorite metal album of 2023 has got to be 72 Seasons by Metallica. We waited years for a new Metallica record here. This is the follow-up to Hardwired to Self-Destruct from 2016, and I was thrilled with this album here. In my opinion, it's better than Hardwired, probably their best record in quite a long time, in my opinion. When it comes down to it, the riffs on here are great. Kirk Hammett's soloing is fantastic. I think the drumming by Lars is really solid as well. Lars gets way too much hate on the drums. And, tracks on here that I enjoy include the title track, 72 Seasons, Too Far Gone is great, Inamorata is an amazing album closer. I was hoping when I saw them live at MetLife Stadium they would do it live, but unfortunately they did not. But, a lot of awesome tracks on here that I really enjoy. You have If Darkness Had a Sun, probably my favorite song from this record. Great stuff there, in my opinion. Love the lyrics on that track as well. Screaming Suicide, Lux Eterna, awesome tracks here. This is pedal to the metal from beginning to end, in my opinion. So when it comes to Metallica, they're a band that I know not everybody loves, and probably some people will have this on their worst albums of 2023 list just because they hate Metallica. But for me personally, I love Metallica, and I love their more recent stuff. I don't think they have a bad album, so I enjoy every era of their careers, and now you have this later stage in their career now, and they're still making great studio releases that I think, hold their own. So when it comes down to it, coming in at number one here on my list, my favorite metal album of 2023 has got to be 72 Seasons by Metallica. Sorry if that's unpopular. So that wraps up this countdown here, the top 15 best metal albums of 2023, which should be visible right over here. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel down below, turn on the bell for notifications so you never miss a new upload. I'm going to be doing a ton of these year-end countdowns, so you definitely don't want to miss it. And please let me know down in the comment section below, what are your thoughts on my list, and what are some of your favorite metal albums of the year? I want to hear from you, so please let me know that good stuff down in the comments. And until next time, it's the CD guy, Johnny Z, signing off. Take care, everybody.